Today I want to talk about staining, and there's a real appeal to applying stain to a project because you can add some color to it. Now, I'm one to really love the natural look of most wood species, but sometimes you're trying to make it blend into other projects in your house, or you just want to take the grain that is in the wood and amp it up with a little bit of color. And that's what we're going to do here. The real issue, though, is getting a consistent color on the entire piece. One easy way to dial in what you're looking for is to create a sample board like we have here that we tried out some of our cans of stain that we have going on just to see what looked good on the material that we're working with. This coffee table top is made from beech, a nice solid hardwood, and we were looking for something to give it a little bit of pop. So we've decided on this far one here. It's an old master's stain called Special Walnut. And I really like the brown kind of chocolatey look that it's going to give us. Now what we need to do is find a good application method. And one of our readers, John McPhee, called in and offered his solution, and he learned it from the late great Homer Formby from Formby's Tongue Oil Finish, if you remember those commercials and advertisements. And the secret behind it is to use steel wool. Now the steel wool has a couple of advantages. First, it's a little bit abrasive, so it's going to burnish the wood as the stain gets rubbed in. The other thing is when you use a cloth or a brush, you end up applying a lot of stain. A lot of stain gets soaked into the cloth, and you waste a lot of that material. So this method allows you to put on just the right amount of stain so that you can make your expensive cans of stain go a little farther. So let me show you how it works. So I've mixed up some of the stain in a cup here, and I've added some mineral spirits to it just to thin it out a little bit. I've unrolled the bale of steel wool and shook out as many of the loose fibers as I could on it. And what I'm going to do is to dip the stain or dip the steel wool into the stain, and then I can squeeze it out so that I have just the stain that's saturated the steel wool but isn't super drippy. So there's not a lot of stain in here. And then I can begin to apply it in very even, controlled amounts across the panel. Now, one thing that I do want to note that as I'm going along here, because the steel wool is abrasive, I want to work in the direction of the grain. So on the middle of the panel here, where the grain is running end to end, I'm going to follow that grain direction. But when I get to the two breadboard ends on either side, I'm going to switch and follow the grain direction there. You can see that as I'm applying it, there's not a ton of leftover stain that I'm going to have to wipe off later. And because of how I'm able to apply it with the steel wool, I have really good control over the color and how uniform that it is. So I'm just going to keep working my way across here. After applying the stain with the steel wool, I rubbed down the excess, and there's really not a lot going on here. And as you can see, I got some great color going on this project. So I just need to let the stain dry before putting on a couple of top coats to lock it down and give it the final sheen that I'm looking for. One quick piece of advice, as always, when you're working with oil-based stains, any of the cloths and even the steel wool, you want to let that dry out completely. Lay it out flat or hang it over the edge of a bar or something like that so that it doesn't spontaneously combust. We want to avoid any unnecessary fires. And it's a great application method for stain. I still have quite a bit left in the cup there. So thanks to John McPhee on that one, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.